the participants can see there, right? To all the panelists, and for all the other participants, I will ask they will perhaps switch off their webcams.
Mr. Gamage, would you like to switch off your video cam? Yeah, because in this hour, let the panelists have their video on.
Okay,
Mohammed,
wonderful.
for those also, you may like to keep your video off.
Right.
Yeah.
Mohammed, for those, can you please turn off your video? Okay, right.
Yeah.
So we
And,
have
Professor Anand is about to join. Yes, he should join any
so I
moment.
would like to first. Most of the panelists are already our presenters as well. So I think that their introduction I also have introduced them a couple of times during the sessions in the previous days. Yes, but there are some new panelists, and I would like to introduce them a little bit. We have with us. We have been joined with us by our worthy panelist. Our first panelist for today is Professor Anan Kumar. He is the Hydro and Renewable Energy Professor at Hydro and Renewable Energy Department, IIT Roorkee, India. And he has also worked as a chairperson of Gujarat Electricity Regulatory Commission and Melaga State Electricity Commission. Our next panelist is Mr. Faisal Sharif. He is the Director Project Appraisals Private Power Infrastructure Board, Ministry of Energy, Government of Pakistan. And then we have with us Dr. Rakesh Kumar Goyal. He is the Vice President of Tetra Tech India. We have with us Dr. Ram Prasad Dittal. He is the member Electricity Regulatory Commission of Nepal. We have with us Mr. Ravi Khushi. He is the Vice President Business Development, Indian Energy Exchange. And also, just to give his brief intro, Mr. Ravi Khushi is currently working as the Vice President, Business Development in Indian Power Exchange. He's an electrical and electronics engineer and also a postgraduate in management from IIM Lucknow. He has more than 15 years of experience across the value chain of the power sector. Our last panelist will be Mr. Anan Kumar. He is the professor at Hydro and Renewable Energy Department, IIT Roorkee. So I would like to welcome all the panelists. They are on board with us, and I will start up the panel discussion with our first panelist, Mr. Professor Anan Kumar, to give his view on the regulators' perspective, to give us a brief about the regulators' view on the competitive market for the RE. So,
Dr. Qureshi, I can't see Professor Anand Kumar. So can we start with the other panelists? Because
okay,
I
right.
think
So then I will give the floor to Mr. Faisal Sharif, Director Project Appraisals, Private Power and Infrastructure Development Board. And he will give us a brief overview about the electricity market, how the electricity market is being transformed in Pakistan, what are the challenges and the way forward. The floor is yours, Mr. Faisal, and I would like to say that, due to time limitations, each of the panelists have 5 minutes to speak, 5 to 7 minutes to speak. Over to you, Mr. Faisal.
Ali, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well.
And you can also see my presentation?
Yes, your presentation is visible.
Okay, thank you so much.
But not in full mode. No, Mr. Faisal, can you make it in full view mode?
It's in full view mode.
Well, we are not. Anyway, you can go ahead with that. We are not able to see that full view mode, but let's go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Due to shortage of time, I'll keep it just brief and quick. So I think this. Yeah. We at present we have installed capacity of 40,000 megawatt in Pakistan, and which has 44% share from public sector, and the 56% share from the private sector. with a dependable capacity of 37,000 megawatts. So the private sector share is increasing with the passage of time, because the more private investment is coming in the generation sides. So that is a result of the reforms process started in the early 90s. So yeah, so I'll just give a brief overview of reforms in Pakistan power sector that was started early 90s. Earlier we had two utilities, the WAPDA, Water and Power Development Authority, and the K Electric. So in 1992, the WAPDA was unbundled into transmission companies, and one transmission company and 10 distribution companies and 4 generation companies. The purpose was to bring bring the efficiency, the capital formation, and enhance the competition. So with the same objective, the PPIB was created in 1994 to encourage and safeguard private sector investment in the power sector. And then in 1997, the regulatory regime came in, and the NEPRA was created to oversee all the unbundling process and to regulate the sector. Of course, the ultimate objective of reform was to liberalize and open the market for efficiency, competition, and transparency in the sector. So far, PPIB, since its creation, has facilitated in implementation of various policies of government of Pakistan. Currently, we are implementing two policies. The one is 2015 power generation policy, and the other one is 2015 transmission line policy. Since its creation in 1994, it has attracted leading international lenders and companies in Pakistan power sector, which have been contributing in overall economic development of country. And so far, we have developed around 18,000 megawatts, 40 projects of 18,000 megawatts of around $20 billion, and one HVDC transmission line. Overall, 70% of electricity is supplied to IPP, to nation grid by these IPPs. So at some of the time, even that is beyond 70%. Currently, we are processing 22 projects of around 12,000 megawatts. Further, we have extensive involvement in electricity market transformation and other electricity reforms process, policy formulation, and various other procedures. Since the topic of today is the power purchase agreement, so right now we have the security package for the IPPs under 2015 policy, which have standard documents like the implementation agreement, which is the government agreement which PPIB executes with the project sponsor, and it provides the government guarantee for the power purchaser against payment obligation and performance obligation of power purchaser. Then the PPA, which is signed between the IPPs and the project and the power purchaser. Then we have fuel supply agreement, water use agreement, and there's also a direct implementation agreement with the project lenders as well. Usually the term of the PPA is 30 years, and thermal projects is built on operate basis, and the hydel is on boot basis. Governing law is Pakistani law, and English law for DIA, a direct implementation where the foreign lenders are involved. We have 3-tier dispute resolution mechanism. The first is the mutual discussion between the parties. The second is determination by expert, and the third is arbitration. And the venue of arbitration depends upon the amount of the dispute. If it's greater than 10 million, then it's the arbitration held in London. Government provides certain assurances and GOP in compensation in case of termination of the projects as well. After some break of the reform process, which was halted, it was again started in 2015, and the federal government approved the market design for the competitive trading bilateral contract market (CTBCM). Its conceptual design was approved by the regulator in December 2019, and recently last November, NEPRA, which is regulator, has approved the final design of the market implementation with commercial operation deadline of second quarter of 2022. The purpose is to transform this single buyer model towards the multiple buyers wholesale market to bring competition, ensure security of supply, providing mechanism for explicit allocation of transmission distribution losses, and balancing mechanism for energy and capacity products. So these are just a broad design parameters of the market. It will be a grass pool with security constant, economic dispatch, and based on real-time market with export settlements. There will be two products, the energy and capacity, which will be traded in the market, and the capacity obligation, resource adequacy will be ensured through capacity obligation. It's a cost-based model based on variable generating cost. It will be a single price formation, and the market operator will clear the imbalances in the pool. It will be there will be a centralized procurement for all discos, but the contract will be signed by individual discos with the projects, with the demands. and it will be a mutually negotiated bilateral contracts. The different types of contracts will be offered to the market players depending upon the situation. So they can opt for the market contract from the given list, which are 5 or 6 type of contract which has been listed in the approved design. And then the eligible consumer to participate in the markets which have a load greater than 1 megawatts, and other one will be supplied through the regulated supply through this existing discourse. So there are mainly two kinds of player. I will not go into the details of player. The one is the market service provider, which will provide service level playing field to all the market participants to promote competition in the markets on equal basis. And the second one, and these market service providers have don't commercial interest in the market, whereas the market participant will be actually involved in the trading of energy and capacity in the market, and they will have, of course, a commercial interest in the market. Right now, the National Capacity Expansion Plan has been approved by the NEPRA, and we have the generation capacity requirement for 2030 is 61,000 megawatt, which is 64% more than as of today, and it requires an investment of $40 billion for additional capex and opex of new projects other than the existing IPPs and the committed projects.
Right.
This
Thank
is the
you.
fuel mix for.
Sorry, I have to stop
Ali,
you.
just give me 1 minute. I'll conclude
okay.
it. Just give me a 1
Okay.
So this is just a fuel mix, and we have by 2030, since we are moving towards the clean energy, so we have 61% share of clean energy in 2030 as compared to just 26 or 30% in today's energy mix. So of course, in the market transformation, we have number of challenges. We have limited space for the new projects because of existing PPAs. We have contractual obligation of minimum take or pay, and then we require a huge investments. Then of course, for larger share of renewable energy, we require grid stability and transmission and network.
Yes, Faisal, I believe that we lost your voice.
He was on mute.
You have to unmute yourself. Yeah, there you has been muted.
Okay, I think.
Yeah. So the final way, I was just discussing the way forward, that we are working on number of plan to overcome these challenges. It include the national transmission system expansion planning and some smart technology interventions besides the capacity building of existing institutions. So with all this, I'm going to end, and you can share my presentation with the participants so they can read the rest of the slides. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Faisal, for this wonderful presentation and giving us insights about how Pakistani market is transforming into this CTBCM or competitive market model. So with this, I mean, we also would like to learn from the experience of the Indian Power Exchange, and for this, I mean, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Ravi Khushi, VP Business Development, Indian Energy Exchange, to give us his perspective and what are the learnings, I mean, regarding this RE purchase or purchase on Indian Energy Exchange. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope I am audible, and I'll just share my screen.
Yes.
Please confirm if it's visible.
Yes, it's visible to us, sir.
Perfect. I understand we have been discussing for the past 2 to 3 days on the PPA mode of renewable procurement. I am here to provide Indian experience in procuring renewable energy through exchanges. So what is the since the time is short, I will only cover just snippets of what I feel is the value proposition of participating through an exchange rather than locking in a longer term PPAs. How does exchange help? Exchange for a buyer, it is transparent price discovery and it's flexible power procurement. In India, we have 15-minute time blocks where you can schedule your power. So in a day, there are 96 time blocks. And for a seller, it's payment security. In India, the payments, I think it's not just in India. Most of us face these issues where the payments get delayed because of the condition of the financial condition of the distribution companies. So since the payment is issued and since the schedule is guaranteed, the exchange operations have grown from strength to strength. For the past 13 years since we have in operation, the growth rate of exchange has been staggering 32%. So that shows the trust and the value which the participants have given for exchange. So last year we have introduced one market segment which is called green market. See, primarily exchanges are known for day ahead market and there are term ahead markets. And last year we have introduced two new market segments, one green market and one real time market. So what does a green market mean? Only the renewable players, whether solar and non-solar, we differentiate between solar and non-solar. Non-solar includes wind, hydro, cogen, everything, and solar. These players can exquisitely participate in it, and their bids will be cleared as per the modalities. I'll not get into it. And we have also launched one more market segment last year, real-time market. In real-time market, the difference between delivery and the trade is just 1 hour. So in the other market segments, this is the closest where we have when we are calling real time, this is the closest where we have difference between the trade and the delivery. And why were these two market segments important? One, till date, at least in India, and I understand majority of the countries don't have an exclusive green market. And when we are seeing that in future, India has a humongous target, right? 175 gigawatt by 2022, 450 gigawatt. We have humongous green targets. So to achieve that, going exclusively by the long-term PPA route may not be feasible. Why? Because the international experience suggests the same. That as and when the penetration of the RE penetration becomes more than 10%, 12%, gradually spot markets play a better role in helping renewable integration. And why do spot markets help? How do they help actually? Because of the same reasons which I mentioned earlier. Because renewables are, first of all, renewables are highly intermittent. On a larger control area, renewables can be better integrated. When you are having a PPA, if it's just bilateral, it's very difficult to accommodate the intermittency and the uncertainty in renewables, which becomes much more simpler, much more not simpler, definitely much more easier when you participate in exchange, because on a larger control area, when you have some thousands of participants with different power requirements in different time of the day, there is a huge diversity and the clearance ratio can increase without causing any curtailment, without causing any pain to the distribution entities or other entities. The biggest concern for a buyer in renewable energy is their load curve will not match with the generation curve. The generation of wind happens in the off-peak hours in the night. Solar generation happens in the morning off-peak hours, and our peaks are generally in the morning and the evening. So they are not coinciding. So, but when you come to the market and when you try to schedule on a very large scale, there will be someone or other who will be willing to buy that power at that particular time at a transparent, competitively discovered price. This is the biggest value proposition. So last year we have launched this market. We had almost greater than 100 participants. Please note that we have launched this market, even though when I'm saying we, it's not just IEX. IEX just one entity. It's the Ministry of Power, Honorable Commission, and variety of stakeholders whom we have in policy regulatory authorities. It has been in the offing for quite some time, and we could launch this successfully in the last year. In a regime where we have all these long-term PPAs, majority of the RE capacity has been tied up under this long-term PPAs. There's no per se merchant capacity available by design or by default or by design. The renewable capacity which is available is just surplus which is available with the distribution companies. There is some surplus. All these distribution companies in the country have certain targets, RPO, we call them renewable purchase obligation. But the entities in the south and west, they have some of them have surplus wind or solar, depending on how they have got their installed capacities. So they could sell that surplus immediately, because of which they could make money. As I said, Discom's health is not so great, the financial condition of Discom. So the immediate money, as I said, in the biggest value proposition for a seller, you get the payment immediately. That's one. And I think someone is sharing, but it's fine. I don't need this one. I can just talk right now. So the biggest value proposition for seller is the payment is guaranteed and you're getting immediately, you're getting payment immediately. And for a buyer, there is no long-term commitment. Here, if anything, if we learned anything in the past 1.5 years of COVID, The longer term arrangements are very, very difficult to manage. And that too, when you're thinking of long 25-year rigid PPA structures and compare with the flexible, transparent procurement in the exchange, gradually there is a shift. Even the government of India in its draft national electricity plan has targeted to get 25% of the total electricity consumption in the country to the short-term markets. So currently it's just around 6%. Exchanges is having around 6% market share. So that's the aspiration. So should I share? I think someone has stopped my sharing. I just have one more slide. I'll just share that once again.
Yes, please share. Do share, and we have to. You need to conclude your.
Yeah. So that's it. So there is one market segment which was launched last year. This is how it has been performing. You can see the buy, sell, and clearance which is happening, and the different prices which have been discovered depending on the market reality. We have and the only point which I want to say in this, that in the non-solar and solar, we have been seeing good participation, irrespective of having no merchant capacity. There are entities, renewable entities, which are in surplus. There are entities which are commissioned early. There are entities which have operational surpluses. All of them are sold. And as I said, many of the distribution companies and open access customers have the RPO, renewable purchase obligation, because of which they have to procure some amount of power from the renewable. So these are all the buyers. So we have been seeing significant participation. There's just one slide which I want to cover. In the last 10-15 days, just before October 26th, we have launched one more market segment, which is green day ahead market, as a part of our day ahead market itself. So the market segment which we have launched last year, it's term ahead market. If time permits, if someone is interested, I can elaborate the difference at the last. But in the last 15 days or so, we have launched one more market segment. Again, the intent is to encourage green participation, which we have been seeing. Again, the participation, because of the lack of time, I will not be able to elaborate on that, but we have been seeing decent participation in that market segment as well. So these are the two, three segments which you have seen, and in future probably we will be looking at contract for differences. There are variety of models which are being discussed in the country. We have to see how things shape up. So I'd like to stop here. I think I'm done. You can ask me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ravi, for this wonderful presentation and giving us the insight about the Indian Power Exchange. I would like to move forward and give an opportunity to our next to our next panelist, and that is Mr. Professor Rakesh Kumar Goyal. He is currently the Vice President of Tetra Tech, a US-based consultancy firm. Sir, can you give your insights about how the utility takes up for this RE purchases? Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Ali, and good afternoon, participants. Every country has set up very ambitious target for the renewable energy. And they all realize that it can come through only the DISCOM routes, because ultimately DISCOM has to consume them. So there is a lot of pressure on the distribution companies to absorb more and more renewables. At the same time, the cost of the renewable has also come down significantly in last 3-4 years. Now, which is also utilities having a higher power purchase cost. Typically in a distribution utility business, 60 to 80% cost is the power purchase cost. So utilities also wanted to make use of it so that they can reduce their power purchase cost. And they all are, most of them in this geography in which we are talking about, they are suffering from the financial health. And there are issues which are very common to them, and they have a forced targets because they are generally government controlled in a way. Is still the corporatization has taken place, but the private discoms are around 9 or 10% only which deal with the business. So they have been forced by them to absorb more and more renewables. Now, what to do to them? And they have the problems because they are worried if we take more and more renewable into the system, there will be a system integration cost. And who will take care of that system integration cost? How they will recover that system integration cost? Most of the countries, the net metering and net billing policies have been introduced. and which are very gladly picked up by the industrial consumers and commercial consumers, whose tariff is highest. So which has also resulted in a loss to the distribution companies. The distribution companies are not getting benefit because their tariff is higher than the cost of supply. So they are the privileged and premium customers. So this is the second worry, and government, of course, is not compensating for that loss to the discoms. Now, how to deal in such a situation for the utility is really a dilemma. And we thought over it, and we have come out with some of the solutions which I will like to share in this forum. First is that what is most neglected is that solar rooftop has got neglected grossly. And there are several pockets in every utilities in this geography where the losses are high. So our one of the recommendation is that you put the solar rooftop, encourage those consumers in the pockets where the losses are high. And we did calculations, financial calculation, leave aside the economic gains, and they can make a very decent amount of profit. So what they need to do is that they need to carefully choose where they want to introduce their solar rooftop policies. The second point on the system integration cost, I was saying, and yesterday I took in very detail how they should procure the power to minimize their system integration cost. One of them is the accurate demand forecasting so that they can match the profile. The third important thing they need to do is they go to the auction route. They should dispense with the conventional method of procurement of the power from the market, which was good for the thermal case, which is not good for the renewable. They should demand in the market, make their presence, they are the buyers. They should show their power of buying in the market and go as per their demand requirement. They should say, I'm not bothered what type of technology you uses, how you manage them, you go storage or not. I want dispatch power at this time blocks. As I shared yesterday, 3-4 models, they can pick up based on their requirement. The time slot model or even a firm power based on the renewable. The experience has shown when utilities have adopted these models globally, the costs have come down significantly. So A, they are able to reduce their power purchase cost because of the competition, and B, they are also able to satisfy the government of the requirement of meeting the RPO target and helping them in terms of achieving the target that their country has. Also on the feed-in tariff side, where the tariff is low, but when it is fed to the system, then the system integration comes on the side of the distribution utilities. So there also, there is no harm. They should make a case to the regulator to add system integration charges on that and recover from the developers. Because as the cost is coming down, they have to put all the power purchasing from various technology, including thermal, on the same platform. So these are some of the opening remarks and suggestions for the utilities. And as the things evolve, I will be happy to put more thoughts on that.
Thank you so much, sir. And I think now we can proceed, and we can also would like to give the floor to Dr. Ram Prasad Dittal. I mean, if he can give us
Mr. Ali, if you can allow me to interrupt. I saw Mr. Anand has already joined. If you can also give him some times to.
Sure, definitely, I will do that, right? So at the moment, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Ram Prasad Dittal, member Electricity Regulatory Commission, Nepal, to speak about how the Nepal is seen for the purchases of the renewable energy. I mean, to increasing their renewable energy mix. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Good afternoon, everybody. We have a vertically integrated utility. This utility actually buys power from independent power producers. The import is also done by the utility, and consumers. We actually get the service from utility. So how do we actually procure power? How does the utility procure power? This is very interesting. In our case, we have not yet started competition so far. The project developer, the independent power producers, they identify the project, be it solar or hydro. Hydro also we have different options, and then unlike in other part of the world, I mean, the government issues the license. In India, in other part of the world, the regulator issues license for survey and construction generations. But in our case, regulator has been in operations, very recently, has been a little more than 2 years since we started our functioning. So the government issues license for those who would like to actually build the project, and then they conduct the feasibility study. They go out to the people, they approach the bank, and the document is submitted to the utility, where the utility has a team of experts. They review the document. Unfortunately, since we do not have the competitive procurement process, we have a kind of a posted rate. Posted rate for for hydro, for storage, the runoff river, the peaking, for solar. So these posted rate, we actually give them 8 or 9 escalations over the the PPA period. PPA period is about 30 years. So we signed a long-term PPA for especially for those who builds the hydro projects. For solar, 25 years. And then when we started our operation, so what the utility does is they review the document, they finalize the energy table, submit the document to ERC for final endorsement. If disputed arises between utility and the developer, we have also a kind of a 3-tier of dispute resolution mechanism. I also mentioned this in my presentation the other day. The coordination committee is formed between 2 parties. The representative from the developer and from the utility. They sit and they discuss, try to resolve the issues. If they fail to resolve the issues, this second tier is at this executive level. And then the executive level, if they cannot resolve the issues, and then only the issue is brought to a regulator, and we have a set of standard. That's how we actually resolve the dispute. But one of the issues, as I was mentioning, because of the nature of the market, there are a couple of issues that we're now trying to address. For example, the first one is since there is no there is no competitions, we have a monopolistic market. How do we establish a competitive environment so that the people get cheap services, reliable quality service? This is one. The second one, the pricing model is also standard, right? So how can we actually incentivize? How can we protect the investors' interest at the same time consumers' interest? So this is another thing. The third thing is in all verticals, be it generation, the transmission, distribution, the trade, system operations, the only one entity is involved. How can we create a level playing field for all operators? Especially this also includes the high consuming the industries. I want to get access, but there is no access means we have not yet developed the wheeling mechanism. So this is another thing. And then because of monopolistic nature, I mean, who cares? I mean, who is going to monitor the service quality? How do I make sure that consumers pay their bill and then they receive the service of that their price, right? So these are things that we need to address. And in the regulatory commissions, what we are now trying to address is cost reflective tariff, generation, transmission, distribution. But the biggest problem is, how do you establish the benchmark? Hydro projects are, the site is specific. The solar, we have, international, price survey. We can actually establish the benchmark for solar, but hydro, we're trying our best. We have reviewed the document, the price structure of, India, Bhutan, and Pakistan as well. But this cost reflective tariff is a bit difficult, it seems, for us. The second point is, the service quality. I mean, our whole network, right? The government focus is to promote, consumption, but the transmission and distribution infrastructure is not, capable to handle the increased demand. So this is another area where we need to improve. We need to strengthen. This also includes harmonizing our transmission network. especially when we are into the, power exchange with India. So our, grid system also needs to be, compatible. That is also another issue that we need to address. The third point is, the corporate governance, because 5.5 million US dollar per megawatt project and 2 million US dollar per megawatt project receive the same, the rate, right? The revenue structure is same. So this is probably one of the, one of the area we need to work on, especially the institutional or the corporate governance of the IPPs are also very bad, I should say. So how can we actually improve their corporate governance, especially in the the financing, the reporting, auditing, all those accounting systems. You have different format, and then you inflate the price because you have the standard PPA. So the IPPs are not motivated to optimize their cost. So this is another thing. And the final point I just wanted to mention here is the trust in our case, especially in the Nepalese, in the bureaucracy, the policy, and also the regulatory, the industry, the lack of trust among the player. Now, I don't know how do we actually address this issue. This is one of the issue that we need to deal. This has also has hampered in developing the project at the community level, at the provincial level, and the macro, the federal level. So, but after the establishment of the regulatory commission, so we're hoping that the sector will, digest the new regime of, the market. The government also has developed the new electricity bill, which has been already presented at the National Assembly, where we promote basically three things. One is competition. Power procurement has to be based on competitive process. But the regulator has to develop a framework, least cost expansion framework, and then based on that framework, utility has to procure power from the IPPs. This is one. The second one is restructuring of the power sector. So how do we do this? We need to actually establish a separate trust system operations, trust in the company. The generation is completely with the private sectors. Government should not be involved in generating projects. And the power trading also, we need to bring private sector in trading business. So that's what the government is thinking. And the final point here is since we are already in seasonal surplus, so we are already in the Indian power exchange. Hopefully, the export and import will be made very easy in the near future, and the power sector in Nepal will be considered as a what you call it, one of the main driving input for the national economy.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Dittal, for this wonderful insight about the Nepalese market, the challenges and the barriers you're facing. So basically, next, I would like to give the floor to Professor Anan Kumar from Hydro and Renewable Energy Department, IIT Roorkee, to speak on what is the regulator's perspective on competitive of introducing this competitive market for RE. So can you give us or speak from the regulator's perspective about this competitive market for RE?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, and thank you very much for conducting this program very effectively. I think your sessions were all good, and everybody has got an opportunity to speak. So my experience as a regulator, I feel that since we are planning for a huge renewable energy in future, and I think it is almost okay also and correct that the environment should be protected. And with renewable energy, we call zero cost energy because it does not have any variable cost. So only thing is the front cost, that is the capital cost, and then you will reap the benefit of that. The issue is that whether it should be through competitive bidding or preferential tariff or feed-in tariff, whatever it's. The past experience, because what happened in Gujarat up to 2016, we were following the feed-in tariff regime, where the tariff of the wind energy was about 4 rupee 15 paisa, and for solar energy it was around 6 rupees. So it was quite attractive. And in the meantime, what happened? The government has, taken a stand that okay, we are going ahead with a 175 gigawatt, and we have to complete it in 2022. So, as a regulator, our concern is always a balance between the consumer and the uh, utilities, because we have to see utilities health as well as we want to protect the consumers, because the tariff should not be high. But the issue was before, the challenge before us was how to cope up with this kind of renewable energy at this price. Suppose if I purchase coal power this thing projects at 3 rupee or 3 rupee 50 paise, why I have to pay 4 rupees or 6 rupees just to protect the environment? Because ours is a developing country. So naturally, this was a threat to us. But gradually what happened in 2017, government has issued a guidelines that okay, since the law provides that okay, there should be competition. The aim of the law is that the competition has to be there, because without competition, consumer will not get any benefit, not the price will come down. So that, that stand I have, also followed. And I have, as a regulator of Gujarat, I have issued a notification that from today, nothing will be bought from renewable energy unless until you go for a competitive bidding. And I was shocked to see that after competitive bidding, the rate of wind energy came down to 2 rupee 46 paisa. And solar energy, you will not believe, it is about 2 rupees. Now, this kind of scenario, when we got about 5,000 megawatt at this rate, it was really a, amazing thing for us. And the consumer was also benefited. The only issue before us was that, okay, there will be some indirect cost. Likely, our predecessors have told you that this is a variable energy. We don't know at what time it will come and at what time it will go. So we have to make some flexibility in our thermal plants, and some kind of additional cost has to be borne because of wear and tear of the machine, and your SHR will go down or your SHR will go up, and auxiliary consumption will increase. So that cost is around 50 paisa to 1 rupee. So if you add 50 paisa or 1 rupee at 2 rupee, it is also cheaper than the average cost of power purchase. So this was good. But the issue is that we should not ignore the role of the regulator. The role of the regulator is the developmental role. Now I have come to the conclusion that regulator job is not to regulate the sector, but its job is to develop the sector. Now, how can we develop? Suppose if I say that, okay, as a regulator, I say that, okay, competitive bidding, we cannot escape now because this is the law of the land and we have to follow it. And this has given us the results. Prices are come down. Yes, I am also agreed that the ROE or the return on investment of the developer and the manufacturer of that wind or solar machines have come down drastically, which was very high at the time of feed-in tariff. But let us not go into that, because our interest is to make a balance between the consumer and the developer. Now, renewable energy, we cannot escape. We have to follow the regulatory, this thing, renewable energy. Competitive bidding, yes, we have to follow. The only issue is for the regulator is to play a developmental role. How they can play a developmental role? They can put certain regulations in, practice, so that your developer and the investors are comfortable, like payment capacity. Now, payment of the dues of the developers is very important. Now, our experience that some states are doing it very good in time, but most of the states are not doing it because of the bad health of the distribution company. So it is the job of the regulator to see that their economic condition of the utilities are also healthy. Now, for that, they can go for some other measures, like they can give them fuel surcharge, quarterly revision, so that they will get cash. Suppose because the prices of the coal and gas increases very sharply in the market. So we need to give them the cash by way of some quarterly revision of the fuel surcharge. So the tariff is gradually, changing every quarter. So this will not impact the consumer, because suppose it will reach to 10 paisa or so, the consumer will not mind because they will get continuous supply. The second issue is very important, that open access. Now, suppose if we allow the developer to put their renewable energy project in your state, it is very necessary that you should give them comfort while allocating open access and open access charges, because renewable energy we have to promote. Now it is the job of the regulator to set the target, set the charges in a way that it is a win-win for both. We have to make it reasonable so that open access is promoted. Number two is very important, this connectivity. If you make your codes or grid codes like that, the okay, renewable energy projects will get immediate connectivity in the transmission system, and you also have to determine the transmission charges in a way that renewable energy projects are getting benefit. So these kind of proactive rules, I think regulator should play so that the renewable energy is promoted, because our targets are very high, investors are already worried, and we have to protect them because our job is to balance the sector and make them develop. So this is my last word. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this brief perspective, giving us the perspective of regulator. And I think the one of the key learning is that the regulator needs to play a role of a development role has to be played by the regulator. And with this, I would like to give the floor to Professor Anan Kumar. And sir, I mean, one of the important aspects when you are transforming to just competitive markets for the RE, I mean, is building the capacities of the stakeholders, right? So this is what we need to know, that what do you think is the capacity needs, or what are the capacity gaps that needs to be filled in for this?
Thank you, Dr. Qureshi. See, I think all our learned panelists have spoken about the need and how the regulations and the concern about RE as well as promotion for RE. But one of the things which there, the lack of the capacity in the, especially in the everybody's mind. I mean, you have very small groups. We have to hire the consultant. Hiring of consultant is a time-consuming process, and also there is no continuity of the same person. So I think there is a very strong need that capacity building not only after entering into the job. I think the capacity building in terms of when they learn this subject of regulation, subject of power purchase must come even at our level of degree level courses or even diploma level courses, where this country is a right now gap. Right now we only teach the core engineering, but these kind of things which is over there, and also in the most of the utilities, especially generating utilities, this regulation aspect is really, I would like to say, it's a very low level. It's very not not everybody understand, though even a trash sack cleaning machine and operator must know what is regulation, because he know that if by doing this, what kind of impacts is going to come. So I would like to say in one simple sentence, capacity building is required to understand, to make this effective. And now the target is for 2050. So we have another 30-40 years where RE is going to play a very big role. Has capacity building, which is not a one-day job. It's where people learn. We have the very eminent speaker who have 4 decades to 3 decades of experience in this. I would like to say capacity building must be taken up with right earnest, not those people who do not know anything. Those are thalle, put them there, or put everything on same group. So I would like to say where the capacity building should be part of all utilities, whether it's a distribution utility or it's a generating utilities or even a trading utilities. And of course, this is what is the need of our. So with this, I like to say close it. Thank you.
So
over to you, Dr. Qureshi.
Now, thank you. Now the floor is open to all the participants. I mean, they can please feel free to ask any questions you have in your mind. You can also write down in the chat box. So you can ask the questions. I will take a question from Mr. Tularam Podal. First question. Mr. Tularam, please unmute the mic, introduce yourself, and please ask the question to the panelist. So, Mr. Tularam, are you with us?
You can also show your face. Yes, I mean, those who are asking the question, they can also show their video, please.
Exactly.
Mr. Goyal, you have to unmute yourself.
May I ask question if he is not here?
Am I audible?
Okay, yes, we will then
Okay.
give the floor to
Thank you.
Mr. Ibrar Malik. Mr. Ibrar
Okay,
Malik,
okay.
please be precise and to the point because we need to finish in next 10 minutes. So please.
Sure. In the presence of worthy panelists, the experienced councils, I have one suggestion and one question for deliberation and giving insights. Suggestion with regards to Nepal's power sector, which is growing, and of course it will move to the open market access for the generators. So how do you see that at present the PPAs are done on long-term 30-year basis? How to split this PPA in the future projects, curtail the PPA for 10 years, the lender's payment is done. Then afterwards, the 20 years period, it should be put for open auction by the sponsors. And this is one suggestion for discussion, how to make the transition for future open market from the existing long-term PPAs. And my other little query from the second panelist who presented the Indian exchange, power exchange, energy exchange presentation, that he mentioned that long-term PPAs for solar may be avoided. But I feel with the advancement of the technology that at present it's 2021. The efficiency of solar panel is 19%, for example, and in 2027 it becomes 30%. So in the absence of long-term PPA, which I am going to invest today, I had the business plan to recover my cost and profit in 10 or 15 years. Then it is an open auction market. And in 2027, my investment will be at stake because the new investor coming is with 30% efficiency. He can sell at a better rate than me. So how can I be protected? My investment can be protected. Thank you.
Should I answer should I at least tell my views now, right now? On the second question?
Yes, please go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Very valid question, sir. Even Indian policymakers and everyone is pondering over this point. There are a couple of points to be considered. None of us have a direct answer, but when Indian merchant market has opened somewhere around probably 2008-9, there was no merchant capacity per se in India, in Indian thermal segment as well. There is a few captive generations who are actually selling to the grid. Gradually, exchange IEX also opened at 2008-9. So gradually, as and when the liquidity started coming, as and when the confidence started building, government took a policy decision that let us say at least park 15% of the capacity, 15% of the point which you mentioned. It started here with 15% of the tendered capacity to be sold in the exchange, or to be sold not in exchange. Exchange is just one mode. There's a bilateral mode in short term as well. You can do that. So that's how it started. Now, if we just consider not just India, probably if you look at European model or any other model, all of them have spot markets. So even there, the investments are made, but there are different models. There is a capacity market. There are different markets which are being considered. So I may not be able to comment on all those segments, but there are different models which can actually help protect the interest of developers. There is a contract for difference. You might have heard, some of you are much more superior in knowledge here. So there are a variety of models which are in play, which will be considered. I don't think developers will be left in lurch. But yes, everyone probably has to take their part of the risk to ensure that the final outcome or the power comes cheap to the customers.
I hope that answers the question, right? So
can I also just respond? I mean,
please, sir, go ahead, please.
No, thank you very much for the valid point. I fully, echo your suggestions. We're trying our best to introduce the, availability based or two-part tariff in the, generation side. This will address this issue. Once the loan, repayment period is over, then we'll, encourage them to, participate in the competitive process. Yeah, but this is in our agenda. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Any other questions from the participants? The floor is open. and we still have time. So please feel free to ask any questions you have in your mind.
Mr. Fordel wants to speak
Yeah.
and he left.
Am I audible? Am I audible now?
Yes, now audible.
Yes,
Go ahead.
yes, you are audible, please.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you everyone and all these panelists and presenters for their wonderful delivery. And thank you all. So my detailed question is to our Ram Prasad Ditar sir from this Nepal. Sir, Nepal is now experiencing the X generation, and there are certain measures to address that. Maybe it can be exported power or the demand stimulation inside. But Nepal was to initiate the take and pay PPA to check and balance the generation and demand. So what is the status of that, sir? And this is one question. And another question is maybe what is the strategy of regulatory commission where you are right now to this unbundle, to undertake the unbundling process of vertically integrated utility? Sir, your short answer is requested.
Thank you, Tulaji. Thank you very much.
Yes, please go ahead, answer the question.
Power sector reform and unbundling. Once we have, Electricity Act approved from the Parliament, so this will be initiated very soon. The bill is already at the Parliament, so we're hoping that this will be, approved very soon. Regarding the, take and pay. Yes, this is one of the way to share the risk, right? We've signed, close to 8,000 megawatt projects based on take or pay, and this is going to, burden the utility. So, we've suggested, so, just to, share the risk. This will be again, the regulator is very new. We are trying our best, but still, that depends on the overall, policy framework of the government. This much from my side now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, but just
Mr.
to say,
Rakesh, I'd like to take
just a piece of suggestion. I mean, to all the participants, I mean, those who are not speaking, kindly turn off your cameras for a moment. We will ask you to turn on the cameras for a combined screenshot, but not now, right? Okay, so we have another question that is from Mr. Sabindra Bahadur. Please, if you can turn on your camera and ask the question.
Sir, I am Savindra Shrestha from Department of Electricity Development, Nepal. My question is for the panel of expert Ravi sir, that second panel of expert. In his presentation, he's mentioned that numerous types of open competitive markets regarding the power purchase, right? So there are numerous options they are tying up now. And in this numerous market mechanism, what is the role of the independent regulator in terms of setting either the cost-based tariff or the performance-based tariff?
Probably I was not able to explain myself. I assume you are referring to the various market segments: real-time market, day-ahead market, green term-ahead market, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So in exchange, all these tariffs are determined on a competitive mode. So either there are different modes of price discovery, but all are competitively determined. And these are all short term. So when I'm saying short term, it's less than 1 year. Although currently we are restricted up to 11 days. Hopefully that restriction will go out. Let us not get into that. But we are in short term and all the tariffs are competitively determined. So once it's competitively determined, there is no role of regulator in it. Regulator, as I think as one of the speakers also mentioning that their role is only restricted to development. So they have already given us the guidelines and they monitor how the exchange is performing, whether they do audit also. But there is no further role for regulator here. The prices get discovered by the algorithm and the algorithms get audited. CRC, our honorable commission is CRC, Central Legislative Regulatory Commission. They also check, they also keep on monitoring, but there is no further role. They do audit under this. Prices are determined by algorithms.
Any other question? I can see another.
Let me add to the last.
Please.
Yeah, actually, what happened in India, the market is regulated by the central regulator. So they first frame the regulations, how the market will operate, what will be the rules of the market, how the price will be determined. They say that, okay, this is the demand, supply and market driven price. But the margins or the method or the procedure or the transparency level, this all will be decided by the regulator. So if you want to do for the marketing, market or energy, your regulator should make, rules of the game, and then only the market will flourish and they will operate like in India, because our market is doing very well. They get audit also. As he rightly pointed out, the whole system is audited by the central regulator or independent auditors. So this is very important, as I have pointed out in my last lecture, that our third phase, there are three phases. One is our public funding. Second is our PPP mode. Now third is your market. That is the ideal thing, which is ultimate of the regulations. Finally, we have to reach to that stage that the market will determine everything. The only issue is that regulator has to protect the consumer's interest and the utilities health. I think with this, I think we should end. We should end this program now. Okay,
Right.
Arun.
Okay, sir, we have just let me take some one more question. I can see the hand raised by Mr. Hasib. Mr. Hasib, are you there with us?
Mr. Hashib Saha.
Hello. Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm trying to switch on my camera, but there may be some connection issues. My question is for Mr. Ravi Kuchi. Thank you for explaining the Indian exchange process. I want to know, you said that there is a 10% as a reference when you can move from PPA model to the exchange model or a competitive model. So is that an Indian case scenario where above 10% you have to move from the PPA to competitive market, or is it I mean, what's the reference?
No. I just mentioned as a thumb rule. I could not show that slide. There are probably, I think, Germany or many of the European markets have this 50%, 60%. Their RE integration is significant. So I just meant it saying that initially our RE penetration has been very low. Now we have been seeing 11%, 12%. The point is to say that gradually we are reaching double digit, and with the targets which we have taken, we'll be probably reaching much higher numbers. So we are saying gradually market as a tool should be able to integrate RE better rather than just force fitting with incentives, giving. So probably I have a slightly different view, giving a longer term incentives, giving ISTS waivers. We are doing so many things, but keeping market on equal footing and ensuring that other interests are protected, and a competitive way of power procurement is actually always considered better, as one of the regulators also spoken. So I was just referring to that. There's no set guideline by anyone.
Okay, let me also add here that India and other SAARC countries, they are in the development phase. So the financing of the PPA or the renewable energy project is also a challenge, because there are so many risks. I have explained that there are so many risks that your developer may face. So the financial institutions are, more, comfortable when there is a PPA kind of thing. So as our exchange person has told you, that some of the percentage can be for the market, but some of the percentage should have a direct PPA kind of thing. So the market is not affecting the cash cycle of the developer, because he has to finance or cash back pay back the loans. So because financing is also issue. I think yesterday I have told you that our targets require a large amount of money. It will about lakhs and lakhs of crores, because our target of 500 gigawatt in India definitely require a lot of investment in India. So investment will only come when they will get some comfort. If you leave it to the market, so the market is not so mature in the developing country. So it is better to offload gradually, day by day. You have to see that, okay, 15% now, so 20% next year or so. So we can gradually move to the market, but some of the amount of the generation should be a kind of PPA, or some kind of arrangement should be there. So their risk is also being mitigated in that way.
Just adding one point here, sir. Mr. Anand sir. So when we started this GTAM, there was no merchant capacity, but probably you would have heard Adani has set up a 50 megawatt solar on pure merchant basis. So previously there was no merchant capacity. Now there is a 50 megawatt. Then there are players who are commissioning the projects early so that they can sell in Renew, Azure. All the big players are actually started participation. So to solve the chicken and egg problem, we actually thought, okay, let the market start. It's not a big investment from our end, but we are seeing good progress in that.
Yeah, because the fact is that all these states have no potential for the renewable energy, generation. Suppose wind is not possible other than 2-3 states or 4 states in India. Similarly, solar is not possible to those northeast states or Himalayan region or North India or Kashmir like that. So the market is also a good platform where they can meet their RPO by buying the energy from there. So, and with this one grid, so there is no issue. I think it is. I think it can work. But whenever you go for some kind of strategy, you have to examine it thoroughly at your state level.
Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you to all the panelists for this wonderful discussion, and thank you so much for participants for asking such a great questions. So now we'll proceed towards the closing session, and we have with us our director SEC. He's with us right now. He'll be delivering the closing remarks. But before I formally invite him to give away his closing remarks, I would like all the participants to kindly turn on their screens for a moment so that we can take the snapshot for today, and then we'll proceed towards this. Please, all the participants, please kindly switch on the cams for a moment. Please.
Presentation of Mr. Ravi Kuchi and presentation of Mr. Faisal has been already shared in the Google Drive and also on MS Teams. So both presentation are shared, so you can have a look at them. You can download them.
Admin, are we taking the snapshots?
Done, sir.
Done. Wonderful. Right. So I would like to now invite, hand over the mic to Dr. Nawaz Ahmed Twig. He is the director SEC, and he will be delivering his concluding remarks for this session. Just to give a brief intro, Dr. Nawaz holds a PhD degree in Land and Water Resource Engineering and an MSc in Sustainable Energy Engineering. He is an energy professional with over 20 years of experience in energy sector, and he has also been serving as in Ministry of Energy, Petroleum Division, Government of Pakistan, looking after the affairs of LNG and LPG. His experience covers upstream, midstream, downstream petroleum sectors, technology, policy, regulation, and economics. He owns a transdisciplinary research skill set in petroleum, power, and environment sectors. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Qureshi sir, for a brief introduction. Thank you all for this online training activity. Dear trainers, delegates, and participants, good afternoon. As a matter of fact, supply of clean, reliable, secure, efficient, and affordable electricity is one of the major drivers for sustainable growth of the SAARC region. The region is bestowed with significant potential for electricity generation through renewable energy resources such as biomass, small hydro, wind, and solar. Energy demands of the region can be best met if the energy resource potential is developed and utilized effectively. The government in SAARC region have already various measures for promotion of renewable energy based generation, such as adoption of feed-in tariff or preferential tariff resources structures. However, due to the increasing renewable energy potential and penetration and decreasing capital cost of RE technologies, there is a need to develop an integrated, sustainable, and competitive power market structure in SAARC countries. This shall result in providing access to affordable, secure, and sustainable energy to the masses of the region. In such a scenario, an effective legal regulatory framework plays an important role for integrating the growing RE generation in a competitive power market. The Renewable Energy Power Purchase Agreement, commonly abbreviated as REPPA, along with other set of agreements such as connection agreement, transmission access agreement, payment security mechanism will become pertinent for all the parties involved. Therefore, to enhance the expertise of professionals from the member states on various aspects of power purchase agreements of RE projects, SARC Energy Center conducted this 5 days online training session that I trust have met the best possible purpose of capacity building. I would like to thank the expert trainers and the panelists from IIT Roorkee, Nepal Electricity Regulation Commission, Tetra Tech, Indian Power Exchange, and PPIB, Ministry of Energy, Pakistan, for imparting valuable knowledge and sharing their experience with the participants. Special thanks go to Professor Anan Kumar and Professor Rhythm Singh from IIT Roorkee for their effective coordination and management throughout the event. I'm very thankful to all the participants and representatives from government agencies, academia, energy experts, and practitioners from national and regional organizations for sparing their time and actively contributing in various training sessions. Finally, I would like to thank Mr. Muhammad Ali Qureshi, Program Coordinator, and the support staff of SARC Energy Center, and technical team from IIT Roorkee for running this event smoothly. Before I announce to close this training activity, I take this opportunity to say that let's strive together for prosperity of the SARC region by ensuring provision of clean, sustainable, and affordable energy to all. With these words, I formally close this online training activity and thank you all again. Over to Qureshi sir.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, to all the participants, delegates, panelists for being there with us throughout the session. And this was indeed a very fruitful session. I would like to ask Professor Anan Kumar to say a few words, and then we'll be concluding it finally. Sir.
Thank you, Dr. Qureshi, and thank you for all the participants and experts who could make it. It was, it has been shifted by 4 weeks plus, and we were not very sure. But at the same time, our experts who have a very long experience in this, not only RE sector, but the PPA sectors, and I would like to special thanks to them because they have accommodated their time schedules for this one. And above all, very nice participations. Their response has been very useful and very effective. So in the last, I would like to say, even Mr. Ravi, who just joined, a very short notice, in fact, as an expert, and I think most of the questions were targeting to him. So it was very nice he could join it at the last moment. And I would like to especially my colleagues, Professor Rhythm Singh and then Professor Himanshu Jain, and the team which we have with admin Priya and Meenakshi, and then Vineet here, who has in the back of the stage, who has been in mail and contacting you and talking and all that, has been very effective. And with this, I would like to look forward that SARC region should should make a very nice power exchange like European have done, and with a lot of confidence in each other. And I hope that, let's hope that it should happen, because energy, as in the morning, Professor Anand mentioned that somewhere you have extra, somewhere you have a deficit, somewhere you have renewable, somewhere you have thermal. So let's go for decarbonization of the entire region, which will be very helpful. So with this word, thank you very much, SARC Energy Center. Well, because the first time we entered the arena of SARC Energy Center's activity, and I think we had a very nice experience with contacting and covering all the subject. So with this, I would like to say thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Anan Kumar, and to all the participants. Have a really good weekend. Thank you, and a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.